Hello, my friends. It's Sunday night, and I think it's just such a lovely fall day. Oh, that's right. It's not fall. It's almost summer. Yet when I brought my son to work this morning, the car said 45 degrees. So, what the heck? Pretty cold, huh, Stell? She's not even. She can't even look at me. She's frozen. Her little whiskers had icicles. Huh. Huh. Anyway, I hope everybody had a good couple of days. It wasn't a horribly frigid weekend, but boy, it sure was cold. I guess from that 90-degree weather we had earlier in the or middle of the week. I don't know where that went. I don't know where that went. Anywho, let's do a little reading. Whoa. We're on chapter 11. We're doing awesome in our book. I want to remind everybody that starting this week, I'm going to go to Sunday, Tuesday, Friday. And we're going to do that for a while. We'll see how it goes, right? Maybe I'll end up adding some more days, some weeks, but that's kind of the schedule I'm planning to stick to right now. All right, so chapter 11. Where did we leave off? They were training in that house, right, with Sam and the pool, and there was all that kind of goofy stuff happening. And what else? Marina and Ella had kind of become buddies. So, all right, let's see let's chapter 11 looks like we're back in Spain. The things I remember about coming to Santa Teresa are mostly just snippets of a long journey I thought would never end. I remember an empty stomach and sore feet, being impossibly tired most of the time. I remember Adelina begging for change, for food. Remember the seasickness and the vomiting it caused. I remember disgusted looks from passerbys. I remember every time we changed names, and I remember the chest, as cumbersome as it was, that Adelina refused to part ways with, no matter how dire our situation became. On the day we finally knocked on the door, Sister Lucia answered. I remember it being on the ground, tucked snug between Adelina's feet. I know she stowed it away in the shadows of some obscure corner of the orphanage. My days of searching have turned up nothing, but I still keep looking. On Sunday, 1 week after Ella arrived, we sit together in the back pew during Mass. It's her first, and it holds her attention about as well as it holds mine, not at all. Aside from class, she's pretty much been by my side since the morning I helped make her bed. We walk to and from school together, eat breakfast and dinner together, say our nightly prayers together. I've grown very attached to her, and by the way she follows me around, I can tell she's grown attached to me as well. Father Marco has droned on for a good 45 minutes, and finally I close my eyes, thinking of the cave and debating whether I should bring Ella along with me today. There are several problems with it. First, there's zero light inside, and there's no way Ella will be able to see through the dark in the way that I can see. Second, the snow is yet to melt, and I'm not sure that she'd be able to make the trek through it. But most of all, I worry that bringing her would be putting her in harm's way. The Mogadorians could arrive at any moment, and Ella would be defenseless. But even with these obstacles and concerns, I'm eager to take her along anyways. I want to show her my paintings. On Tuesday, minutes before we were apart for school, I had found Ella hunched over on her bed, still chewing on the breakfast biscuit. I looked over her shoulder to see her furiously shading a perfect drawing of our sleeping quarters. In details, the technical accuracy of every crack in the wall, her ability to capture the faintest of squares of sun rays. The faintest of squares of sun rays that dropped through the windows in the morning was astounding. It was as if I was looking at a black and white photograph. Ella, I blurted. She flipped over the paper. Oh, excuse me. She flipped over the paper, trapping it against her school book with her tiny smudged hands. She knew it was me, but didn't turn around. Where did you learn how to do that? I whispered. How did you learn to draw so well? My father, she whispered back, keeping the drawing turned over. He was an artist, and so was my mother. My father was an incredible painter, she said plainly. Before I could ask her any more questions, we had been interrupted, and then she was ushered out of the room by Sister Carmela. That night I found Ella's drawing under her pillow. It's the best present I've ever received. Under my pillow, excuse me. It's the best present I've ever received. Sitting in Mass, I think that maybe she can help me with my cave paintings. Surely I can find a flashlight or lantern somewhere here to take with us. And then my thoughts are interrupted by a fit of giggles beside me. I open my eyes and look over. Ella's found a red and black furry caterpillar that's in the process of crawling up her arm. I bring my fingers to my lips in the sign of silence. It stops her for a brief moment, but then the caterpillar climbs higher and she begins to giggle again. Her face turns red while trying not to laugh. But the fact that she's trying to stifle the laughter only makes it that much harder. And then she can't help herself, and a string of laughs escape. Every head snaps around to see what's happening, and Father Marco stops his sermon in mid-sentence. I snatch the caterpillar from Ella's arm and I sit upright, staring back at those staring at us. Ella stops laughing. Slowly, the head turns back around to Father Marco, clearly frustrated at having lost his spot, and he resumes his sermon. I sit with my hand around the caterpillar. It tries wriggling free. After a minute, I open my fist, and the sudden movement causes the furry little thing to curl into a ball. Ella raises her eyebrows and cups her hands together, and I place the caterpillar in them. She sits there smiling down at it. I scan the front row. I am not surprised to see Sister Dora glaring sternly in my direction. She shakes her head before turning back to Father Marco. I lean over to Ella. When prayers end, I whisper into her ear, we have to get out of here as fast as we can and keep away from Sister Dora. Before Mass, I'd fixed Ella's hair into a tight braid. And now, gazing up at me with her big brown eyes, it looks as though the heavy braid is weighing her hair back. Am I in trouble? We should be okay, I tell her. But just in case, we'll rush out of here before Sister Dora can catch up to us. Got it? Got it, she says. But we don't get the chance. When there are just a few minutes left, Sister Dora stands up and casually strolls to the back, then stands waiting at the door a few steps away. When my eyes reopen as the final prayer ends with the sign of the cross, Sister Dora places a hand on my left shoulder. Come with me, please, she says to Ella, reaching across me to grab her by the wrist. What are you doing, I say. Sister Dora pulls Ella past me. It's none of your business, Marina. Marina, Ella pleads, as she's being dragged away. Ella looks back at me with scared eyes. I panic and I rush to the front of the church where Adelena is standing, talking with a lady from town. Sister Dora just grabbed Ella and pulled her away, I quickly say, interrupting her. You have to make her stop, Adelina. She looks incredulously at me. I will do no such thing, and it's Sister Adelina. If you excuse me, Marina, I was in the middle of a conversation, she says. I shake my head at her. Tears form in my eyes. Adelina doesn't remember what it feels like to ask for help and not receive it. I turn and run from the room and up the winding staircase to the church offices. To the left, at the end of the hall, the only door closed is the one leading to Sister Lucia's office. I race toward it, trying to decide what I should do. Should I knock? Should I kick straight through it? But I don't get the chance to do either. Whether I'm within reaching distance of the knob, I hear the crack of the paddle, followed instantly by a scream. I'm frozen in shock. Ella cries on the other side of the door, and a second later the door is opened by Sister Dora. What are you doing here? She snaps at me. I came to see Sister Lucia, I lie. She's not here, and you're due in the kitchen. Go on, she says, shooing me the way I came. I'm headed there myself. Is she okay? Marina, it's none of your concern, she says, and then she grabs me by the bicep, spins me around, and gives me a shove. Go, she orders. I move away from the office, hating the fear that runs through me every time confrontation stares me in the face. It's always been that way. With the sisters, with Gabriela Garcia, with Bonita on the dock, I get the same feeling, the same nervousness that quickly segues into dread, that always causes me to walk away. Walk faster, Sister Dora barks, following me down the staircase and towards the kitchen where El Festin duties await. I have to use the restroom, I say, before we reach the kitchen. Which is a lie. I want to make sure Ella's okay. Fine, but you better make it fast. I'm timing you. I will. I duck around the corner and wait 30 seconds to make sure she's gone. Then I rush back the way we came and up the staircase and down the hall. The office door is slightly ajar and I walk through it. The interior is dark and somber. A layer of dust covers the shelves that line the walls, upon which sits 8 chimp books. The only light enters through a dirty stained glass window. Ella, I say, for some reason thinking she might be hiding. No answer. I walk away and I poke my head in the rooms situated off the main hallway, all of which are empty. I call her name as I go. At the hall's opposite end is the sisters' sleeping quarters. There is no sign of her. There is no sign of her in either. I go back down the stairs. The crowd has made its way to the cafeteria. I walk to the nave looking around for Ella. She's not in there. Nor is she in either of the 2 sleeping rooms, nor in the computer room, nor any of the storage rooms. By the time I've looked in most places, I can think to check. A half hour has passed, and I know I'll be in trouble if I go to the cafeteria. Instead, I hurry out of my Sunday clothes, pull my coat off its hook, swipe the blanket from my bed, and I dart outside. I trudge through the snow away from town, unable to push the sound of the paddles crack on Ella's scream from my mind. I'm also unable to forgive Adelina's scorn towards me. My whole body tense, I focus my energy on some of the large rocks I pass, using telekinesis to lift them and hurl them against the mountainside. It's a great way to blow off steam. The snow surface is hardened, creating a thin layer of ice that crusts underfoot. But it doesn't keep the rocks from sliding downhill. I'm so mad I could let them go, careening towards town. But I stop them in their tracks. My gripe isn't with the town, but rather its namesake, and those who live within it. I pass the Camel's Back, half a kilometer to go. The sun is warm on my face, situated high in the sky, and slanted towards the east, which means I have at least 5 hours before I'm due back. I haven't had this much free time in a great while, and with the bright sun, crisp, fresh wind pulling me from my dismal mood, I hardly care that I'll be in trouble when I get back. I turn to see how effective my blanket cape is hiding my prints in the hardened snow, and I'm afraid to see that it hasn't worked at all today. Nonetheless, I push forward until I spot the rounded shrub. Oh, excuse me. Let me start over. Nevertheless, I push forward until I spot the rounded shrub sticking over the snow. Then I race towards it, at first not noticing the very thing my eyes should be attuned to, that the snow at the base of the cave is tossed up and pushed around. But as soon as I reach the cave's entrance, I know immediately that something is horribly off. Approaching from the south, a single set of boot prints, double the size of my own, dot the mountainside, a perfect straight line cut into the snow leading from town to the cave. They seem to tromp around its opening, as though circling it. I'm flustered, certain there's something else here I'm missing, and then it dawns on me. The prints, they lead to the cave, but they don't lead back out. Whoever they belong to is still inside. Dun dun dun. Okay. Chapter 11 is done. We're just knocking them out tonight, Stowe. Stella's, for some reason, upset with me, and I don't know why. Why are you upset tonight? Huh? Yeah, who knows? All right. They're here, I think. After all these years, the Mogadorians are finally here. I turn so fast I slip and I fall into the snow. I quickly crawl backwards away from the cave's mouth, my shoes tangled in the blanket. Tears well up in my eyes. My heart races. I manage to right myself, and I sprint as hard and fast as my legs can carry me. I don't even look behind me to see if I'm being followed. Sweeping across the same snowy terrain, I just hike through. Moving so fast, I hardly take note of where my feet are falling. The trees below me begin to blur, as do the clouds above. I can feel the blanket hovering behind my shoulders, flapping in the wind like a superhero's cape. I trip once and slide across the ground, but immediately scramble to my feet and sprint onward, jumping straight over the camel's back, again crashing where I land. Then finally I dash past the birch trees and make it back to the convent. The hike there took nearly 25 minutes. The sprint back took less than 5. Like the ability to breathe underwater, the legacy of super speed presents itself when I need it to. I untie the blanket from around my neck. I burst through the double doors and hear the lunchtime clatter coming from the dining room. I hurry up the winding staircase and down the narrow hall, knowing it's Adelena's turn to take Sunday off. I enter the room where the sisters sleep. Adelena sits regally in one of the 2 high-back chairs, Bible in her lap. She closes it when she sees me coming. "Why aren't you at lunch?" she says. "I think they're here," I say, out of breath, my hands violently shaking. I bend over and rest them on my knees. "Who?" "You know who," I yell. Then between my closed teeth, "The Mogadorians." Her eyes narrow in disbelief. In disbelief, excuse me. "Where?" "I went to the cave." "What cave?" she interrupts. "Who cares what cave? There was a set of boot prints outside, huge boot prints." "Slow down, Marina. Boot prints outside of a cave?" "Yes," I say. She smirks, and I instantly realize coming to her was a mistake. I should have known she wouldn't believe me, and I can't help feeling foolish and vulnerable standing in front of her. I straighten. I don't know what to do with my hands. "I want to know where my chest is," I say, not exactly in a confident voice, but not in a timid one either. "What chest?" "You know exactly what chest. What makes you think I held on to that old thing?" she asks calmly. "Because you would be turning against your own people if you didn't," I say. She opens her Bible and she pretends to read. I think of leaving, but then my mind returns to the boot prints in the room. I say in the room in the snow. "Where is it?" I ask. She continues to ignore me. So I reach out with my mind and I feel the contours of the book. its thin, dusty pages, its rough-hewn cover. I snap the book shut, and Adelina jumps. Tell me where it is. How dare you? Who do you think you are? I am a member of the Guard, and the fate of the entire race of Lorians depends on my survival, Adelina. How could you turn your back on them? How could you turn your back on the humans? 2. John Smith, who I believe is a member of the Guard, is on the run in the United States, and when he was pulled over recently, he was able to move the officer without touching him, just like I can do, like I just did with your book. Don't you see what's happening, Adelina? If we don't start helping, not only will Lorien be lost forever, but so will Earth and the stupid orphanage and stupid town. How dare you call this place stupid? Adelina steps towards me with clenched fists. This is the only place that let us in, Marina. It's the only reason we're still alive. What did Lorik do for us? They pushed us onto a ship for a year. Then they pushed us out onto a cruel planet without any kind of plan or instructions other than stay hidden and train. Train for what? To defeat the Mogadorians, to take back Lorien. I shake my head. The others are probably out here right now battling, figuring out how to come together and how to get us home while we're stuck in this prison doing nothing. I'm living my life with purpose, helping the human race with my prayers and service. And you should be too. Your sole purpose on Earth was to help me. You're alive, aren't you? Only in the literal sense of the word, Adelina. She sits back in her chair and she opens the Bible on her lap. Lorien is dead and buried, Marina. What does it matter? Ouch. Lorien isn't dead. It's hibernating. You said so yourself, and the point is, we're not dead. She swallows hard. A death sentence has been handed down to all of us, she says. Her voice slightly cracks. Then in a much softer tone, she says, our lives were doomed from the beginning. We should do good while we're here, so we may have a good afterlife. How can you say that? Because that's the reality. We're the last of a dying race, and soon we'll be all gone too. And may God help us when the time comes. I shake my head at her. I have no interest in talking about God. Where is my chest? In this room? I walk around the room, casting my gaze onto the ceiling's edges. Then I crouch and I peer beneath a few of the beds. Even if you had it, you can't open it without me, she says. You know that. She's right. She's right. If I'm to believe what she told me years before, when I could still trust the things she said, then I can't open it without her. The futility of it hits me all at once. The boot prints in the snow, John Smith on the run, the sheer and utter claustrophobia of Santa Teresa, and Adelina, my Saipan, meant to help me and assist in developing my legacies, who has given up on our mission. She doesn't even know what legacies of mine have developed. I have the ability to see in the dark and breathe underwater and run at super speeds, to move things with my mind. That means to bring plants back from the brink of death. Anxiety sweeps over me. And at the worst possible moment, Sister Dora enters the room. She props her fists on her hips. Why aren't you in the kitchen? I look at her in the mirror. I look at her and mirror the same scowl she's giving me. Oh, shut up, I say, and I march out of the room before she responds. I run down the hall, down the stairs, grab my coat, and push through the double doors. I look wildly around as I move within the shadows lining the side of the road, though I still feel as though I'm being watched. Outside, nothing seems amiss. I race down the hill without letting my guard down. When I reach the cafe, I enter because it's the only place open. About half of its 20 tables are occupied, which I'm thankful for. I have the urge to be surrounded by people. I'm about to sit when I notice Hector alone in the corner drinking wine. Why aren't you at El Festin? He glances up. He's clean-shaven and his eyes appear clear and sharp. He seems well-rested. He's even well dressed. I haven't seen him this way in quite a while. I wonder how long it's been. I thought you didn't drink on Sunday, I say, and immediately wish I hadn't. Hector and Ella are my only friends at the moment, and one has already disappeared today. I don't want to upset Hector at all. I thought so too, he says. If you ever know a man who tries to drown his sorrows, kindly inform him his sorrows know how to swim. Here, sit down, he says, kicking out the chair across from him. I plop down. How are you? I hate this place, Hector. I hate it with everything inside me. Bad day? Every day is a bad day here. This place isn't so terrible. How are you always so cheerful? Alcohol, he says, with a sideways grin. He pours himself what looks to be his first glass from the bottle. I wouldn't recommend it to the others, but it seems to work for me. Oh, Hector, I say, I wish you wouldn't drink so much. He chuckles and he takes a sip. You know what I wish? What? That you didn't look so sad all the time, Marina of the Sea. I didn't know that I did. He shrugs. It's something I've noticed, but Hector is a very perceptive man. I look to my left and to my right, pausing to focus on each person here. Then I take the napkin off the table and I put it on my lap. I put it back on the table. Then I put it back on my lap. Tell me what is troubling you, Hector says. Then he takes a larger sip. Absolutely everything. Everything? Even me? I shake my head. Okay, not everything. His eyebrows rise and then furrow. Now tell me. I have a deep urge to tell him my secret. The reason I'm here and where it is I really come from. I want to tell him about Adelina and what her role was supposed to be and what is instead become. I want him to know about the others out there on the run fighting, maybe sitting idly like me, collecting dust. If there's one person I'm certain would be my ally, who would be there to help me in any way he could, then surely it's Hector. He is, after all, a defender who's meant to hold fast and who was born into power and bravery by such simple means as the name he was given. You ever feel like you don't belong here, Hector? Sure, some days. Why do you stay then? You could go anywhere. He shrugs. Several reasons. He pours more wine into the glass. For one, there's no one else to take care of my mother. Plus, this place is my home, and I'm not convinced there's much better out there. My experiments have taught me that things rarely improve with a simple change of scenery. Maybe so, but I still can't wait to leave. I only have a little over 4 months left in the orphanage, and you can't tell anyone this, but I think that I'm going to leave sooner than that. All right, we got about 2 pages until a page break. Yeah, we got about 4 pages until the end of the chapter, though. Well, I don't know. Let's see. I don't think that's a good idea, Marina. Excuse me, you're very young to be on your own. Well, where you go? Where will you go? America, I say without hesitation. America? There's something there I need to find. If you're so determined, then why haven't you already left? Fear, I say. Mostly fear. You're not the first, he says, taking a moment to empty his entire glass. His eyes have lost their sharpness. The key to change is letting go of fear. I know. The door of the cafe opens and a tall man wearing a long coat, carrying an odd book enters. He moves past us and takes a table in the far corner. He has dark hair and bushy brows. A thick mustache covers his upper lip. I've never seen him before, but when he lifts his head and meets my gaze, there's something I immediately don't like about him, and I quickly look away. From the corner of my eye, I can see that he's still staring at me, and I try ignoring it. I resume talking to Hector, or rather, I babble, hardly making sense, watching him refill his glass of red wine, and I fear next to nothing of what he says in reply. 5 minutes later, the man's still staring. I'm so bothered by it that the cafe seems to spin. I lean across the table and I whisper to Hector, do you know who the person is in the far corner? He shakes his head. No, but I've noticed him watching us too. He was in here on Friday, sitting at the same table and reading the same book. There's something about him I don't like, but I don't know what it is. Don't worry. You have me here, he says. I really should leave, I say, in an old desperation to get away. An odd desperation to get away has come over me. I try not to look at the man, but I do anyways. He's reading the book now, the cover of which is angled towards me, as though he wants me to see it. It's brittle, worn, a dusty shade of gray. Pittacus of Mytilene and the Athenian War. Pittacus. Pittacus. The man is watching me again. And though I can't see the bottom half of his face, his eyes suggest a knowing grin on his lips. All at once, I feel as though I've been struck by a train. Could this be my first Mogadorian? I jump up, smacking my knee against the bottom of the table, nearly knocking over Hector's wine bottle. My chair falls backwards, crashing into the ground. Everybody in the cafe turns. I gotta go, Hector, I say. I gotta go. I stumble through the doorway and I make a mad dash for home, running faster than a speeding car. Not knowing if anyone sees. I'm back at Santa Teresa in a few seconds. I crash through the double doors and quickly slam them shut. I put my back against them and I close my eyes. I try to slow my breathing, the twitching in my arms and legs, my quivering bottom lip, sweat running down the side of my face. I open my eyes, and Adelena stands in front of me. I fall headlong into her arms, not caring about the tensions from an hour before. She tentatively hugs me back, probably confused by my sudden display of affection. Oh, which I haven't shown to her for years. She pulls away, and I open my mouth and I tell her what I've seen. But she brings a finger to her lips the same way I did to Ella at Mass. Then she turns and she walks away. All right. We've got 3 pages. I think this is getting pretty tense. We got to finish this up. That night after dinner and before prayers, I stand at the bedroom window gazing out in the darkness, scanning the landscape for anything suspicious. Marina, what are you doing? I turn around and Ella stands behind me. I hadn't heard her approach. She moves through these halls like a shadow. There you are, I say, relieved. Are you okay? She nods, but her big brown eyes tell me otherwise. What are you doing? She repeats. Just looking outside, that's all. What for? You're always looking out the windows at bedtime. She's right. Every night since she arrived, since I saw the man watching me at the nave window, I've been looking outside at bedtime for any signs of him. I'm now certain he's the same man I saw in the cafe today. I'm looking for bad men, Ella. There are bad men out there sometimes. Really? What do they look like? It's hard to say, I reply. I think they're very tall, and they're usually very dark and mean-looking. And some might even be muscular, like this. I add, doing my best to be a bodybuilder pose. Ella giggles, going to the window. She stands on her tippy toes and she pulls herself up to see out. It's been several hours since I was in the cafe, and I've managed to calm down a bit. I place my index finger on the foggy window. I trace a figure out onto it with 2 quick squeaks. That's the number 3, Ella says. That's right, kiddo. I bet you can do better than that, huh? She smiles and she sticks her finger onto the bottom of the window. And soon, there at the beginning of the beautiful farmhouse in the backyard, I watch as my number 3 is absorbed by Ella's perfect silo. 3 is the only reason I was allowed to leave the cafe today. In the distance, from John Smith to myself, I'm now absolutely convinced that he is number 4 by the way he's being hunted. Just as I'm convinced the man at the cafe is a Mogadorian. This town is so small I can rarely see someone I don't recognize. And his book, Pittacus of Mytilene and the Athenian War, plus the constant stare, are two coincidences. The name Pittacus is the one I've heard since childhood, since long before we made it to Santa Teresa. My number 7, it's my only refuge now, my greatest defense. As unfair as it might be, I'm separated from death by 3 others who all must die before me. So long as the charm holds, which I assume is why I was left alone and not attacked right at the cafe table. But one thing is certain. If he is a Mogadorian, they know where I am, and they could take me at any time they choose and hold me until they kill 4 through 6. I wish I knew what was keeping them at bay and why I'm allowed to sleep in my bed again tonight. I know the charm ensures that I can't be killed out of order, but perhaps there's more to it than just that. You and I, we're a team now, I say. Ella puts the finishing touches on her window drawing. Curling her fingernails over the heads of a few cows to give them horns. You want to be on a team with me? She asks in a tone of disbelief. You bet, I say, and I hold out my pinky. Let's pinky swear on it. She smiles widely and she hooks her pinky around mine, and I shake it once. There, that settles it. That settles it, I say. We turn back to the window, and Ella wipes her picture away with the heel of her palm. I don't like it here. I don't like it here either, believe me. But don't worry. We will both be out of here soon enough. You think so? We'll leave together? I turn and I look at her. That wasn't what I had meant at all, but without thinking twice, I nod in agreement. I hope it isn't something I'll regret promising. If you're still here when I leave, then we'll leave together. Deal? Deal. And I won't let them hurt you. Who, I ask? The bad men. I smile. I would appreciate that very much. She leaves the window and she walks to another, again pulling herself up to it. As always, she moves like a ghost, making no sound. I still have no idea where she might have been hidden today. But wherever it was clearly a place no one would think to look. And then the idea occurs to me. Hey, Ella, I need your help, I say. Ella drops from the window and looks at me expectantly. I'm trying to find something here, but it's hidden. What is it, she asks, leaning forward in excitement. It's a chest. It's wooden and it looks very old, like you might expect to see on a pirate ship. And it's here? I nod. It's here somewhere, but I have no idea where. Somebody did a very good job of hiding it. You're just about the most clever girl I know. I bet you can find it in some time. She beams, rapidly nodding her head. I'll find it for you, Marina. We're a team. That's right, I agree. We're a team. All right, 2 more chapters down. Nice job. We are on chapter 13, and we are 40% done with the book. Yeah, it's not bad. Not bad. So I didn't catch the governor's turning to the world of news. I didn't catch the governor's news conference today. His news conferences have really become kind of the same thing. They're not as informative as they once were, and I think because there's not a lot of new information to give. In the world of the media world has now kind of shifted. It's still paying attention to the coronavirus, right? But a lot of it is turned to this Black Lives Matter movement, which is spread across the world. There was another African American who was gunned down in Atlanta the other day. And there's some news out of Atlanta. Protests are happening, literally starting to happen all over the world. A friend of mine in England posted pictures of, the protests that he went in his hometown there. So it's all over the world, my friends. And this has kind of taken over the coronavirus. But now we know Stella is running all over the place like a crazy lady. Stella, what's up? We now know that last week I told you 20 states numbers were skyrocketing. Well, now it's 21 states, okay? So 21 states have cases that are just taking off. Florida and Texas, I think, are the two worst. There's a dog going nuts outside. But I'm worried that with travel and summer travel, that it has a possibility of coming back up here. And we know that where I live in Schoharie County, there were 3 new cases the other day. There are a bunch of new cases in Albany County. So things are really, really tense because of the Black Lives Matter protests around the world. But I'm not saying we can't focus on that. We can multitask. We can do and think about more than one thing at once. But I'm just very worried that we are losing focus on we have to battle this, we have to battle this disease together, this virus together. Or things are just not going to go back to normal for a very long time. All right. So I guess what happened down in Atlanta, if you guys didn't hear, this is what I read, and there's a video. This man was drunk and asleep, okay, in a Wendy's parking lot. Somebody called the police on him. They got him out of the car. Okay. They're talking to him. And there's a camera, right? The one officer has a vest camera or whatever the heck you call it. And I think they said that they were like talking to the guy for like 40 minutes. So then they finally breathalyze him. He blows the breath off, he's drunk, right? He blows into the breathalyzer test. And he totally, he goes over whatever the limit is. So I guess they're going to arrest the guy. And he resists, and the one officer was going to tase him. So I can't remember if he knocked the taser out of the guy's head or what he did, but he took off. and then the other police officer shot him. Oh my, I don't know. Is that something that you shoot somebody for? I mean, they knew he was unarmed. They knew the dude was drunk. So anyways, the police officer that shot him has been fired, and then the other guy has been put on administrative leave. I think a paid administrative leave. So, I don't know. Anyways, it's a problem, my friends. It's a problem. There's no doubt about it. All right. So President Trump gave the commencement speech today. For West Point, he did not go to West Point. He did it remotely. Excuse me. And at that ceremony, the first female Sikh cadet graduated. But I guess that he's been talking a lot about not diminishing the value of and removing these statues, and people want to change the name of military bases that have the name of Confederate generals and stuff like that. So I guess that was a big part of his speech today. But two other things in local news. There are 6 bills apparently waiting for the governor to sign them. One of them, and I checked on this about 5 o'clock today, so maybe things have changed since then. But one of these bills was requiring state troopers to, while they are on duty, to have body cameras. It was passed by the New York State Assembly. It was passed by the New York State Senate. It has not yet been signed by the governor. So I think a lot of people are going, what's up, bro? Why didn't you do this yet? So we'll see. I'm not too sure. Maybe he's waiting maybe he doesn't want the police to just think, hey, this guy's coming after him. Maybe he's saying, okay, I really want to think this through. But it seems like everything that he's been saying, this kind of goes right up with what he's been talking about. But I don't know. So we'll see if that bad boy gets signed. The other thing we talked about the other day, that the statue outside of Albany City Hall of Peter Schuyler, the mayor of Albany, has ordered that statue to be taken down. So he was a major general in the Continental Army. He built a home in Albany. His family, helped settle the Capital District. They became very wealthy in the Capital District. However, he, owned slaves. So, now people are taking down, so, we got to take down a statue because, so, I don't know. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I was surprised. I guess that I was just surprised to hear that it was happening. So anyways, that's the local news I got for you. Let's do a quick rundown. How are we doing on time? We're doing fine on time. We're doing great on time. We'll do a quick rundown of this day in history, and then we'll call it quits for this Sunday night. So on this day in 1776, Betsy Ross. Well, it's not on this day that she sews the flag, but the flag with the stars and stripes is approved by Congress to be our flag, right? And today is Flag Day, right? Today we celebrate Flag Day. So I know a lot of normal Flag Day celebrations were not allowed to happen, but I know in some places that people did kind of like impromptu, kind of non-official um, parades, I guess you could call them. On this day in 1846, we talked about in class the in Texas, right? Americans being invited into Texas by Mexicans to settle the land. Well, the same things happen in California. And not only do Texans revolt, well, on this day, the Bear Flag Revolt, or in California, where Californians, headed by John Fremont, say, okay, it's time for us to break free and become independent from Mexico. I thought this was pretty interesting. On this day in 1907, so Norway beat us to the punch. On this day in 1907, Norway grants universal female suffrage. So now, on this day, 1907, all women can vote. So they beat us by 13 years. This is another. Today was a good kind of a this day in history. I thought some pretty cool ones. On this day in history, 1922, Warren G. Harding becomes the first president to address the nation on radio. I think that's pretty cool. I don't know. Today it's Twitter, right? It's let's tweet out to everybody, and then it was, we heard these speeches and we heard the person's voice, and I guess we're just gonna have to stick with Twitter. On this day in 1940, so the World War II has been going on for about a year and 9 months. June, July, almost a year and 10 months. And Germany, starts World War II, at least in Europe, by invading Poland. Then they turn around and they head through, Belgium and they just rip through as much of Europe as they can. But on this day, they enter Paris. This is an interesting one. On this day in 1951, the Census Bureau. Okay, the census is happening right now. We're going to know. Usually, we'll have the new congressional districts and everything, but we're going to know. It's kind of sometimes tough to tell, but how many people actually live in America? And it was on this day that the Census Bureau ordered the first computer for commercial usage to be installed so that they could use it to generate everything they need in regards to the calculations for the census. And then it was on this day in 1989 that a Democrat in the House of Representatives, William Gray, he becomes the first African-American whip. So what does that mean, right? And if you think about a whip, right, a whip is meant to, you're going to whip a beast of burden and you're going to control it, right? Well, a whip in politics is kind of that. A whip is, hey, other Democrats, we need you to vote this way, right? And it doesn't go to the loudest. It doesn't go to the most popular. It usually goes to a person that is, well respected. And your representative, in the House of Representatives, Paul Tonko, he is the New York whip. the New York Democratic whip. I'm not sure out of the 27 representatives, not sure how many of them are Democrat. I'd be willing to bet. It wouldn't surprise me if it's like 20. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But he is, of all the Democrats, he's the guy that is, most respected. And he's the guy that, the whip himself or herself will call and say, hey, we need you to get these New York, representatives in line. So that I think it's pretty cool. A lot of neat stuff on this day in history. So also on this day in history, apparently hell froze over because as I'm sitting here reading to you guys, I am freaking cold. It is cold. And of course, we were outside today. We didn't go hiking today. We went on a big kayak. And, you could probably tell here that I'm stuffed up. I think the old allergies are getting to me. But I'm just like, man, am I getting sick? I just feel, woo, But anyways, my friends, good book tonight. Good reading. Book's getting real, real good. Can't wait to get back to it on Tuesday. Get your, last assignment in. I think I had the last assignment due tomorrow at noon. Gave you a little bit extra time. I should be able to get everything turned around grade-wise for Wednesday. But, we're almost there, my friends. We've been running this marathon, and we're like this. We're just about to grab the finish line, right? We're just about to cross the finish line. So, finish up strong. You have plenty of classes. Get everything you can done. Do the best that you can. Slow and steady wins the race, right? Keep running the marathon. Do not sprint. It's no reason to change your course right now. And, we'll be back on Tuesday night. Hopefully my sniffling will have gone away. And, I look forward to reading more with you guys on Tuesday. Be good. Remember that I miss you. And I will see you on Tuesday night. Have a good night, guys.